Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live interviews with Connie Fuchsa. I have told you guys over and over that the reason that I love doing these interviews is because I've met some really amazing, profound people that have seen things that needed to happen to make change in our world. And I'm so lucky to be able to have the experience to meet all these really interesting people. And today I want to introduce you to a lady that really is the epitome of this interesting conversation. She's going to share with us about her journey, but not only her journey, but what she decided to do with those things that she figured out. And so I'm really excited to introduce you to this lady. And also we have a really cool surprise about her towards the end of our conversation that we're going to share with you guys. So Megan, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Connie, so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to share your story with everybody. So what I'd like first is if you would just do that, would you tell us who you are? Who is Megan? Where did you come from? What did you do as you've gone through your journey, and how did you get to where you are right now? And what exactly is that?
Awesome. So I am a licensed mental health therapist. I've been a therapist for 15 years. I'm also an Air Force veteran. I was an officer in the Air Force and do a plethora of other things, which I'm sure we'll get into throughout my story. But my story started, when I was kind of little. I grew up in somewhat of a dysfunctional family. I have a learning disability, and at a young age, I kind of created this story in my head that I wasn't good enough. However, it really did not come to realization until about a couple years ago. So when I was 33 years old, I'm from Michigan, and now I live in San Diego. When I was 33, I had the opportunity to commission as an officer in the Air Force, which got me to California. And at that time, I was definitely not looking for a husband. But you know how that happens. Lo and behold, this man who I thought was the man of my dreams, showed up. I've been very blessed career-wise in the things that I've been doing, like working with the government and being a therapist, for all of these years. But personally, my story is a lot more different than that. So I met him, and within 11 months of meeting him, we were married. And 6 months after we got married, he started to change, and he started getting annoyed by me and like criticizing me. And I would catch him in all these different lies. And even as a mental health therapist, I did not realize that I was actually involved in a very narcissistic, abusive marriage. He had an affair for 15 months of our 2.5-year marriage. He kicked me out of our house twice. He filed for divorce 4 times and pulled the paper. So there was so much of this love bombing and this discarding me and then asking for me back and discarding me. And through that entire time, although we were only married for 2.5 years, I lost every sense of myself. My ex never told me I wasn't good enough, but I created this story in my head and literally started thinking I wasn't good enough as a therapist, as a friend, as a wife. So kind of jump forward to 2016, he finally filed for divorce. But because of the abuse that I was enduring, I remained faithful and committed to him for 2 years after that. I literally put this mask on and acted like everything was fine. Some of my closest friends did not even realize the extent of what I was dealing with. Wow. And then I ended up moving to San Diego, thinking that that's kind of what I needed in my life to get away from him. But of course, the addiction to him got worse. And in 2018, 5 months after I moved here, I lost my 6-figure income as a therapist, and then had my last big incident with my ex-husband and walked away from him 3 months after that. So February 15th of 2018, I literally was standing there with absolutely nothing, no job, walked away from the man that I thought was the love of my life. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? Right. And so I got into therapy myself. I started doing my difficult trauma work and really focusing on changing that story that I created in my head. And I think one of the biggest things in my therapy journey was realizing that my closure, that I was not going to come from him. I was never going to get an apology from him. But the biggest change for me was closing that person that I became when I was with him. And
Wow.
so that to me was pivotal. And I actually started writing. I never intended to write a book, but I was going through these 5 steps of moving from the struggle that I was in into my strength. And 5 months after I walked away from him, I published my best-selling book.
Woo!
And had also started my own private practice and really said yes to me. I could have easily gone back and gotten a 40-hour-a-week job, making 6 figures, but there was something bigger inside of me. And I am a Christian, and like God was literally saying, no, you need to share your story. And like, I'm going to allow these things to happen so you can do that. And so the book came out and it was awesome. I was just, it was so difficult because I actually really understood the importance of being authentic, because for so long I had hid behind this mask of like having it all together. And when I pressed enter for my book to go live on Amazon, it was just like, oh my gosh. And then I started, and I have been on so many podcasts and TV shows, and I speak all over the country and all of this stuff. And in 2.5 years, it's just been like this crazy, like incredibly difficult yet rewarding journey. And so a year later, February 2019, I got this crazy idea in my head. I wanted to give back more. And as a therapist, I talk a lot about the power of visual coping skills and seeing something to be able to change that thought in your head. And so when I started my therapy journey, I would write on a note card every day why I was enough. And my note card started out by saying, I am enough because I woke up and got out of bed that morning. Because that's literally, I had to start at ground zero, like, because that's all I believed was like, I'm enough because I woke up this morning. But as I continued to practice that statement, the affirmation got even more powerful. And that's when things really started to change. So I created this movement. It's called the I Am Enough movement. And I created these coping cards. Like, these are the cards right here. And then on the back, you write, oops, I can't. Yeah. On the back, you see, it says the word because with 3 lines.
Yes.
And you write why you believe that you're enough. And I just started giving these out to people. And then every interview that I was on, people were going to the website and ordering the cards. You can get 5 of these for free. And in that time, some February 2019 till today, there's been over, I want to say close to like maybe 7,000 cards that have been sent to 22 countries in all 50 states. Just literally, and that is my mission, is to empower people to believe that they're enough. And then in October, I made the crazy decision, because I'm a therapist, all right? So I jumped into coaching and building a business and all of that. But again, I really think that God was saying, like, you're going to still do your therapy thing, but you're still going to share your message in a different way, because I am not a business person. I don't know. I just want to help people. And so, but I made the crazy decision in October to change the movement to a 501c3 nonprofit. So, excuse me, we are currently a 501c3 nonprofit. We are raising money to build an emergency shelter and transitional living home for domestic violence survivors here in San Diego, and hopefully other shelters around the country. But all of this in 2.5 years. So I know you have lots of questions. That's kind of like my quick version. But yeah.
Wow. I've been writing notes and I just am running out of paper because there's lots of juicy stuff here. So, I want to go back to the beginning of your story a little bit though, because, the first thing that comes to mind is, here's somebody who's a therapist who went through a really horrible situation. And so people would think the naive, uneducated therapist person looking at from the outside in, how does that happen? I mean, I guess you get so caught up in that you just can't see what's happening to you. You can help other people.
Yeah, you can. And it's crazy that you asked that, because at that point I had been a therapist for 10 years. And I actually had a couple patients that I was seeing that were like in abusive marriages. And I kind of knew, because narcissistic personality disorder is in the DSM-5, and so I knew about what that was. but I had never really, up until my ex-husband, did I really deal with that, I don't think,
Yeah.
that extensively. And at that point, like when you're in a relationship with someone you love and they're telling you that like you're insane and you're crazy and like he has an affair and all of these things, like you believe it to a degree, you know, and it happened so quickly. And I tried to do everything I could. Like I said, he became my drug. And the more I tried to fix it or fix me, the further he would go away. And then every time that I tried to pull away, he would come right back. Yeah. So it's not like, you know, I had these moments of, okay, I'm going to walk away, because every time I did, he was right there and I fell for it again. You know, I wanted to believe the man of my dreams really did love me and that he was going to change. Yeah. And so it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone.
Well, and the other piece of this that you bring up is being a military officer, for quite some time. You know, you're a veteran of the military, and thank you so much for that. I know people say these things and don't always necessarily realize the gravity of that, but being a Navy mom, I'm very familiar with your sacrifice.
Thank you for your service. Well, I really also sacrifice as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that most Americans don't even understand any of that until they're in it. And so I truly appreciate what you've done. And, you know, not only sacrifice, but you do a lot of things very selflessly, because people don't understand the extent of what that requires. So thank you for that. But, you know, it begs the question again, here's somebody who's a very successful military officer, and she finds herself caught up in this kind of confusion. And so it's helpful that you share that story. I'm sure that's really painful to share, but it's very helpful for you to share that, because there's so many people that probably in some level get themselves caught up in these types of things that they don't even see it's happening on the outside. Everybody else can, but they don't see what's going on. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's very powerful. So when you were in the military, were you in the medical field as well at that point, or?
Yeah, I was. I had already been a therapist for about 10 years. And so when I commissioned, I provided mental health and substance abuse treatment to active duty members and veterans at Travis Air Force Base up in California.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. I think that, again, being in the military is one thing, but, that is such a need in the military. There's so many people that have, it's hard. And so many people have so many needs to be able to do that. So that's very powerful that you've done that. So let's talk about, some of these steps. And by the way, you may have been sucked in and out of this kind of relationship and thing, but looking forward now, and you can look back and say, there's a reason why all this happened to me, because look what I'm able to do to help everybody else. I mean, you are doing amazing things helping other people, and the force of this, not wanting to be a business owner, but look what's happening. And so let's go into some of this. So 2.5 years, you've been out of that situation. You were in your own treatment kind of program, getting yourself well, and you decided to publish a book. Talk to us a little bit about the book. What's it called? How can people find it? What's it about? I mean, that is so amazing.
Yeah, that book literally is my saving grace. I'm writing my second book right now, and it's a totally different experience, because literally my first book was written in the most traumatic 5 months of my life. I had started kind of dabbling with writing a couple weeks before I walked away from my ex, but then literally that book was it is like heart, soul. And I wasn't expecting to put my experience in there, honestly. Like I was just going to do some steps and that kind of stuff as a therapist. Right. And then all of a sudden, all of this stuff happened. So the first couple chapters is my journey. And then the rest of the book, it's called You Are Enough, 5 Steps to Move from Struggle to Strength. Because the book talks about every single one of us have felt not enough, whether it be in our health, career, relationships, what have you. Unfortunately, we've all had that thought. And so the book doesn't just focus on relationships, but it focuses on career and really figuring out who you are when you go through something that's life-changing. And that's the important piece, is rediscovering yourself. So the book is on Amazon, and yeah, so it's there, and it's Audible, which was a crazy experience because I got to be honest with you about something. I never read my book cover to cover. Once I got it back, I had people like friends and all of that stuff. Because I didn't want to get in my head about it. Like I wanted that book to be so raw and real that I didn't want to go back through and change things. So the first time I ever read my book from cover to cover is when I recorded it for Audible.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How powerful is that?
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, because I know, whenever I write an article or anything like that, I mean, it goes through many, many edits because I'm always constantly like, well, maybe that's not the right way to say that, or maybe that's too much. So I can see how that would be very much true in this scenario. So, wow, that's really interesting. How cool is that?
Yeah, it was awesome. And even when I went into the studio to record it, when I started rereading my story about the experience of being in that thing, you can kind of hear me get choked up a little bit, but I didn't want it taken out. Like I try to be like as authentic and real as possible because I am human. And so, yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience. But
I bet. Well, I mean, I listen, I never read a book. I always do Audible because I'm just not, I'm not patient enough to sit down and read a book. That's just the way it is. And so several books recently have been that I've read have been about, the author has read them, and it's wonderful because the energy is real. It's not somebody just translating the emotion. It's that real energy. So I'm sure that is incredibly powerful. It's definitely something I need to get downloaded in my Audible account for sure. So we've got the name of your book. So let's talk now about your I Am Enough, because I love the fact that, you went, I don't love that part, but you went through this incredible experience that really was, especially for somebody who was a therapist, probably you really in your mind go back and say, gosh, how did I let this happen to me? That kind of thing. But what I love about it is that you've turned this into this incredible movement that you're helping so many other people with because you've been so raw and open and understanding about it. So talk about how that looks, like what all of these pieces are, because here's one thing I want to ask too. And, you can segue into this, but we talk about the entrepreneurial journey, and that's a thing, I mean, there's so much to it. And when you were talking about not wanting to go back and edit out things in your book, I mean, I Am Enough is for real for everybody in every scenario. I mean, I talk about this a lot in different videos that I do, but the imposter series is imposter syndrome is real for entrepreneurs every day, whether it's your human being side or your business side. It's real. People are constantly questioning themselves, and are they doing the right thing? Are they, enough? Should they be, are they smart enough? Have all the right pieces? Do they have everything, all of those together? So I love that you're doing this and how it translates all the way across the board. So talk to us a little bit more about this movement and how you said, okay, well, I'm going to start doing this. And then, I had this realization I should start a 501c3, which tell everybody what that is, because not everybody knows that.
Yeah. So, okay. I, again, just felt like I wanted to give back, and, I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was just like, okay, I'll create these cards and I'll start giving them out to people. And I did it at an event in 2019, and it really took off. And I was taking pictures of everyone holding the cards. And I was like, okay, well, and then it's always been from the beginning, it's always been 5. You get 5 cards for free. You go to the website. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then literally, I literally have a list of all the countries. And then once I started getting countries, I was like, what? Like, how are people hearing about this? Because I would market it and like this and that. But again, I wasn't a business person per se. And I just kind of jumped in it. Like, I have nothing to lose. I had put my own money into these cards, and one of the reasons why I decided to do the 501c3 is because I wanted the movement kind of got stagnant a little bit. And I was like, okay, I want to do more, but the money wasn't there. I was not the one that came up with the idea to do a 501c3. Someone came up to me and said, Megan, the amount of people you've reached in a year, 22 countries, all 50 states, has been crazy. And people want this message. People want to hear this. So a 501c3 nonprofit is that what you asked me to explain what that is?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, because I think a lot of people don't know what that is.
Yeah. So it's, a non-exempt, tax-exempt like organization. So we raise money, and everything that we do goes directly to the organization. So it's not a profit organization. Like, I don't make a profit at all for anything that I do with the movement. Now, I haven't made 1 cent from the nonprofit. Our goal is literally to raise money so that we can give back and help people. And so that's the cool thing about a nonprofit is, so like, if you donate anything, or like, we have t-shirts and bracelets and that kind of stuff on our website. So if you purchase anything from a 501c3 nonprofit, it's a tax write-off for you. If you make a donation, it's a tax write-off. And so I remember when I started the paperwork, people were asking me, are you doing a for-profit and a nonprofit? And I didn't even have to think twice. I was like, why would I do a for-profit? Like, I don't want the money. Like, I just want to give back to people. So that's kind of the difference. And there's nothing wrong with for-profits by any means. I just had a different idea of what I wanted to do. And I wanted to build this house. And I knew that the only way to do that was with a 501c3. So
that's exciting. Wow, that is amazing. So I'm sure everybody wants to know, but so how is the fundraising going for the house?
Well, to be completely honest, I'm very transparent and real. We got our status, 501c3 status, a year ago. We've only had one fundraiser. I'm still learning what it means. I have a very small board. We need to raise $1.3 million to break ground. The home is called Freedom Haven. So we don't even have land or anything. And, we broke, maybe didn't make as much on that first event. But again, like, we are all new people, like, learning this. And so I've just come under the acceptance that it might take a little bit to raise this money, but I'm still learning, like, I've been super blessed to have amazing people that have offered, like, to help me in this situation. But I also work full time as a therapist. So this is kind of like my side hustle, and I'm still learning. So that's all I'm going to say. We haven't made that much money, but we have.
Well, I mean, in the little bit of time that you've been doing this, you've done amazing things. So it isn't all about the money. Of course, that's the end result. But, most organizations don't do anything to this scale for many, 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 many years. So, let's talk about the business side of this for a minute, because this, I mean, you obviously started your own business by starting a practice, so you had a little bit of business sense.
Well,
yeah, but still, I mean, this is a whole new step. So how did you, this is, curious minds want to know. So how did you know what to do next? You said, oh yeah, I want to do this movement. I think this is a great idea. Now what? How do you know what to do?
I literally, God, led the people into my life that he knew that I needed to help with this. I have an amazing mentor. Her name is Jen Kramer. She has run and built multi-million-dollar organization. She has literally taken me and my board members under her wing, has offered just amazing support and help. And it's literally just getting over kind of your ego and your fear and asking for help. And believe me, I've had a lot of breakdowns, like emotional breakdowns, like especially when it came to this first fundraising event. It was my first one ever. And I felt like I was floundering. And now, like, the end of the year is coming, and I got to do the first year of, like, taxes and all of these forms. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm asking for help. And that for me is huge, because I've always kind of been independent and haven't really asked for help from people. But again, I had to get over that this isn't for me. This is to help other people. So I just truly believe if you're doing what you're intended to do, yes, it's going to be difficult, but the right people and the right things are going to come your way in order for you to build what you desire in your life.
You're absolutely right. I love it. And, one of the powerful things that you're saying is asking for help. We talked about this earlier, but one of the things that people in the business world, whatever that looks like, whether you're running a nonprofit or you're running a for-profit business, is not being afraid to ask for help. I mean, I think there's this thing about being on, Entrepreneur Island, all by yourself, and that you're supposed to know how to do all this, and you're supposed to be able to do it all. And if you don't, then in your own mind, it seems as though maybe you're weak and you're not able to, run a business or whatever, because you can't just figure it out. Well, it's not the smartest thing to do to just try to figure it all out. You should ask for help. So I'm happy to hear you say that right out of the gate, because I think so many people need to hear that message. So tell us, Megan, as you've gone through all of these different avenues and pieces of what you're doing, and do share with us about your next book when that looks like it's going to come out. I don't know how you possibly have time to sleep at night with all these things going on, but
I know. It's crazy, but I love it. I mean, it's, I have a podcast, and I also, the book, all of these things. The book hopefully will be out in February.
Okay.
I would love to have it come out February 15th, because that's the date that I walked away from my ex. I just don't know if it will be ready by then. But hopefully in February. And so that's going to be really exciting for sure.
That is fantastic. Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, you just are hitting them. What's the name of your podcast so we can follow it if we want to? Somebody wants to?
This is great, because I actually started this podcast before this whole I Am Enough stuff came out. And I do it with a co-host who's also a psychologist. It's called the Blonde Bombshell Podcast.
Okay.
And we interview amazing bombshell females that are doing amazing things in this world, whether it be being a single mom, a working mom, an entrepreneur, anyone that's really been through struggles in their life and have moved into their strength. That's what we want on the show. So yes, that started before any of this other stuff. We actually started it right before my book came out. So
wow, fantastic. That's great. Well, definitely people have to follow that, download the book, or purchase the book. I'm going to download it, but purchase it. So tell us, Megan, as you've gone through all of these challenges, give us your go-to piece of advice. The thing that, one of the problems with entrepreneurs is, as we've talked about some various different things, but, when you hit that wall, or you hit that concrete barrier, or you hit that mud puddle and you can't get out, you just don't know what to do. And so that's one reason I do this series, is because, hearing from so many different people about their journeys, and that it's okay to ask for help, to have a mentor, to, stumble and to get back up, and you're going to have to keep getting back up. So share with us your go-to piece of advice, whatever it is that that keeps picking you back up.
Well, honestly, it's literally being okay with rediscovering yourself over and over again. And that means doing the deep dive work where you're identifying those stories that you're telling yourself. Because 99.9% of the time, it's our thoughts. Our thoughts control our actions, behaviors, how we feel when we get out of bed in the morning, how we feel at the end of the day, right? So literally kind of getting in your head, but in a good way, and learning the skills to combat those negative thoughts that are keeping you stuck. Because if you don't have a lot of coping tools in your tool belt, that's what I always like to say to my patients, you're not going to know how to maneuver when you get stuck, because guess what? You're human. You are going to get stuck. Yeah. You are. And you have to know the tools to be able to restructure your mindset so that you can get over and move past those negative stories you're telling yourself.
Gosh, I love it. I love it. Because you're absolutely right. The thing is, there's so much, it's everything we do in life is mindset. It's all around, what you're telling yourself, what your brain is doing. I follow Mel Robbins in one of her, famous books, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just do it. Just start. Just do it. Just count it down, and before your brain has any time to talk you out of whatever you're going to do, get out there and start doing it. So I love this information. So as we wind up here, here's what I really want to share with everybody. Tell us about what you have that's really exciting, that's getting ready to happen for you. And one of the reasons I got so lucky to be able to interview you today.
Well, yeah, I'm really excited. I am going to be doing my first ever TED Talk, TEDx Fenyoe Paseo, in January. It was supposed to be in May and September, but because of the pandemic. But yes, I'm super excited. I'm so honored to have this. It was something on my bucket list 2 years ago when I became a speaker. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in my TEDx talk, how do you get over those limiting self-beliefs to begin to believe that you're enough? So it focuses on 2 steps from my book. But yes, I'm in the midst of memorizing and practicing as we speak. So it's exciting.
That is fantastic. So tell me one thing as we wind up here about your speaking, because, how does one go from being a therapist to writing a book to starting a nonprofit to being a speaker and then be invited to do a TED Talk? I mean, the thing that is so cool about this is, so many people before they become a speaker have so much training and all of this. And it sounds like you have so many pieces that you have put all this together all by yourself. So it's pretty cool.
To be honest, I have not had any training at all to be a speaker. This TED Talk is the most training I've ever had. And to be honest, I don't get nervous to do podcasts or get on stage or anything, because I just truly believe whatever I'm going to say is meant to be said. Yeah. But with TED, it's different, right? Because I got to memorize my speech and I got to learn, I got to move and like all of that stuff. So I'm actually nervous about it because it'll be the first time. But I think for me, I'm a very good, like, goal-oriented person. When I want something, I'm going to go after it, no matter how many hours a day I have to work at it. And that's just what I did. I started literally just messaging like meetup groups here in San Diego to start speaking. I literally, I did go to a podcast event where I had pitched to be on podcasts. And this was before and I didn't even have a message then. I mean, I was just going to share my story and, talk about losing my 6 figures. And then, the book wasn't out or anything. And I worked tirelessly to build and to get my name out there. I've never had a publicist, but I still, get on TV and radio and all of that stuff. So I want to encourage those of you who are watching or listening, like, you don't have to have all of these things in place. If you have a story, people want to hear your story. And that's all that matters.
I love it. I love it. Such powerful information. And see, this is why I wanted to share her with you guys, because this energy, this person who went through all of these tough things has figured out how to keep putting pieces together that she wants to happen. You want it to happen, so it's going to happen no matter how it works. So Megan, I can't thank you enough for being with us today. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, they want to find out more about the book, the new book coming out, the 501c3, all of the pieces of Megan, how can somebody find you after today?
So my website is meganfenyoe.com, and everything social media is Megan Fenyoe. But the movement, if you want to go and order your free I Am Enough cards, it's IamEnoughMovement.info. That's where you can go and get your cards.
I Am Enough Info.
IamEnoughMovement.info.
I'm trying to type in the comments. So it's in there. I Am Enough Movement.
Yep. .info.
.info. All right, very good. Got it. So then if anybody wants to get the cards or find out any more about that, they can do it through that. So wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. Megan, I can't thank you enough for being on. And I hope very much that you will definitely stay in touch. We definitely want to be able to rebroadcast the TED Talk for you. And, we'll share information about your book. I just am thrilled to know you and really appreciate your time. And I'm honored to have you on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Well, I look forward to staying in touch with you. And guys, if you want to learn more about Megan, we've put all of her information in the comments, so you can click on there and get any of the pieces of Megan's life from her there, and get your cards for the I Am Enough movement. If you want to learn more about either being a speaker, on interviewee on our podcast, on our series, or you want to find out more about the expertise coaching that I work on with people and getting them to understand what all of their expertise is all about, ConnieFuchsa.com is where you can find that. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll also be sharing on LinkedIn. So guys, keep your eyes out and all of that. And if you want to make sure you don't miss an interview, go to my YouTube and subscribe there. It would be great. So for now, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks so much for tuning in to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews. And Megan, I'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Bye. Thank you.